Hello everybody, today I'm talking to you about New Zealand, which is the island that is right next to Australia. People from New Zealand get very upset if you confuse them with Australians because they are a very proud, small country. New Zealand is only the size of Colorado and Australia is the size of the United States. However, they both loom as the same size in our imagination. So let's look at New Zealand. You will notice on this slide, you see the Union Jack. You might not know what the Union Jack is if you have never opened your eyes in my classroom. It is the flag of Britain. New Zealand has the British flag on their flag because they used to be a British colony, and we will find out about that as we continue. Okay. What you might know about New Zealand already is that they love rugby. Also, you may have heard about kiwis, which are a very strange chicken-like animal. You'll see some pictures further on in the slideshow. Also, that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were filmed in New Zealand because it is so beautiful there. Also, other movies have been filmed in New Zealand. Perhaps you know some of them. You can wonder in your mind what those are, and I will reveal it to you at the end. Okay, here is the geography of New Zealand. It is split into two islands, the North Island and the South Island, which are the size of Colorado. As I said before, New Zealand is extremely beautiful. I have never been there. I've only seen it in the movies, such as The Hobbit, but it would be glorious to visit. Okay, religion. What religion are people in New Zealand? As you know, they were a British colony, which makes you realize that probably most of the people there are Christian. However, looking at the 2018 census, you will see that the majority religion is nothing. They are godless pagans. They just don't believe in anything. 36.7 are Christian. That includes Catholicism. Maori religion, you learned about the Maori, it's hard for me to say the name right. So some of the Maori celebrate their own culture by following their own indigenous religion. We also have Judaism, New Age, other, and object to state. That means they are against there being a state religion. Countries that do not have a separate church and state have a official country religion, and in New Zealand it is Christianity. So these people, the 6.6%, they're angry. They're like, you don't tell me what to believe. But they also do have freedom of religion because these people are allowed to practice freely, and these people here don't have to go to church. It's just that the state has a religion that they practice. Some would argue that the United States has a religion, and that would be Christianity, because we say in God we trust and stuff like that. Okay, moving on. Achievement. I have animal and plant life as their achievement, which really isn't their achievement. It's God's achievement. But New Zealand has been isolated from the rest of the world for millennia. That means for thousands of years. That means the plants and animals there evolve separately from the rest of the world. One of the animals that evolved there is the kiwi, a chicken-sized flightless bird that lives in the forest and is rarely seen. And we, the rest of the world, often call New Zealanders Kiwis because of this bird. You probably thought it was because of the kiwi fruit, but it is actually from the bird. I wonder what people in New Zealand call Americans. I know that a nickname for English people is pom, because English people eat potatoes, and pom is the word for potato in French. I bet the French started that. And another thing that English people are called are limeys, because they used to drink lots of lime juice on their ships so they wouldn't get scurvy. Okay, politics. There is the Queen. The Queen is very popular in New Zealand because New Zealand was previously ruled by Great Britain. And guess what? you can be pretty nice when you're ruling a country that is so far away from you, as is Great Britain from New Zealand. So the New Zealanders like the Queen. In 1907, New Zealand became independent. The Queen was actually not alive in 1907. New Zealand is very impressive because it was the first country to give women the right to vote 26 years before America. So the United States gave women the right to vote in 1919. So let's subtract 26 from 1919 and we get 1893. They got the right to vote. They have a parliamentary democracy. That means democracy means that the people elect rulers, and parliamentary means that there are two different parts of the government. Okay, tourism is very important in New Zealand because it is so beautiful. Also the service industry, meaning healthcare, hospitality. Hospitality is restaurants and hotels. Accounting, education, and healthcare. I think it's funny that healthcare is a service industry, because I would think it would be in its own category, because that's kind of necessary. Healthcare is necessary to stay alive. Agriculture is very important. They have cattle, sheep, and New Zealand is one of the world's leading producers of milk and wool. You probably have not drunk New Zealand milk, but you might have some clothing made with New Zealand wool. Society, sports. The New Zealanders are crazy about rugby and cricket, just like Australia. You would think that they would have a more diverse range of sports, considering that women got the right to vote and these are male sports. But no, rugby and cricket, and the All Blacks are the famous New Zealand rugby team. Let's see, culture. So culture for the white people is very much like the culture in the United States, but there is also some culture from the Maori traditions, the Maori people. Movies, television, and music are very similar, and you were trying to think of the other movies set in New Zealand. They are Avatar and the Chronicles of Narnia. But here you can see Hobbiton. I love Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings. Okay, society and people. We already learned about the Maori. And here's a picture of a Maori man who have their own distinct culture. And in this little triangle here, you can see their emigration to New Zealand. Okay, history and people. The first Europeans to visit New Zealand were the Dutch, led by Abel Tasman. And you've probably heard of the country Tasmania, which he founded. We're not learning about Tasmania. We just don't care that much. We do care. It's just that it's small and it gets forgotten. Okay, when Abel Tasman and the Dutch people showed up, the Maori beat them in battle and sent them away. And the Dutch people referred to the country that they had been sent away from as New Zealand, which Zealand is a place in Holland, the Netherlands, where the Dutch lived, kind of like how New York is named after York in England. New England is named after England. Anyway, in 1769, Europeans came back with James Cook, and then the British took over, because by then they had got some pretty good weapons and said, you know what, our guns are bigger than yours. Why don't you just let us take over? Which is very rude and insulting, which is why every country in the world has a really good budget for weaponry. You don't want to be out-weaponed by anybody. Okay, so the British created colonies in New Zealand, and Americans also came to New Zealand because they wanted to catch whales, and they wanted to cut down trees, and they wanted to get flax. Flax is used to make linen, so they cut that down, put it in a boat, took it all the way back to the United States, or traded it along the way. And there was a lot of battles between the whites and the Maoris, until the Treaty of Waitangi, which gave British control over the land to the Maori and made the Maori British citizens, like they cared. They didn't care. They didn't want to be British citizens. What's that? A sticker they get to put on their assignment notebook? I mean, what is it? That means nothing to them. They don't care about it. Okay. New Zealand has 4.7 million people. When I think of how big somewhere is, I divide it by Indianapolis is. Indianapolis is 1 million people. So New Zealand is 4.7 Indianapolises. Wellington is the capital of New Zealand and has the second largest amount of people. And most New Zealanders live in the city. And Maori make up about 15%. Some people say it's less, some people say it's more. There are the sources. If you don't trust me, you think I'm lying, you can click on the links. And that is the end of our lesson for today. You can now fill out the Google form, which has 6 questions that I expect everybody to get right the first time. I'm sure you will. Thank you.